when we will be able to make some projections. 6 states will close all polling in those states. So get ready right now. And CNN projects President Obama will carry Vermont and its 3 electoral votes. The President of the United States carries that New England state. CNN projects Mitt Romney will carry Kentucky and its 8 electoral votes. Neither one of these 2 states a big surprise. This is fully expected. We are not able to make projections at this point in these states. Georgia, Indiana, South Carolina, and the battleground state of Virginia. Even though all polls in all 4 of those states have closed, we are not yet ready to make a projection in any of those 4 states. Right now, on the race to 270, Mitt Romney has 8 electoral votes based on our projection, 3 Vermont for the President of the United States. As we wait for more real votes to come in that will help us make projections, we want to share with you what our exit polls are revealing. But remember, these are estimates. They're based on interviews with a sampling of voters as they left select polling stations. All right, we have exit poll results in Indiana. First of all, this is what the exit poll shows us. Estimates, 55% for Mitt Romney, 43% for the President of the United States. The President carried Indiana 4 years ago. This is a preliminary estimate. Exit polls in Virginia. Take a look at this. The exit poll shows a tie, 49% to 49% in Virginia. Doesn't get much closer than that. Again, though, these are estimates based on our survey of voters leaving select polling places. The final outcome may be different. We want to let you know we use these exit polls to make projections only, repeat, only in non-competitive races. In battleground states like Virginia, for example, the exit polls show us that the contests we expected to be close are indeed close. We're going to share more exit poll data like this throughout the night as polling places close in critical swing states. Here's why. We want to be fully transparent with all of our viewers in the United States and around the world. We want to make sure our viewers get the same information we have, that it's accurate, and that they hear it directly from us. Anderson?
We want to be checking in with some of our correspondents all throughout the region. Let's check in with Jessica Yellen, who is over at Obama headquarters in Chicago. Also checking with Candy Crowley, who is in Boston at Mitt Romney headquarters. First, we go to Jessica. Jessica, for the state of Virginia, how confident does the Obama campaign feel about their position in Virginia?
I've been talking to them throughout the day, Anderson, and they feel incredibly bullish about Virginia. As you know, this is one of those states. If Governor Romney does not win Virginia, his path to 270 is very difficult. And they like, in particular, they say in the data, the African-American turnout that they are seeing there. They say it is beating what they saw in 2008, better than the turnout in 2008. If that does hold up, if that proves to be true, that would be very good news for the president indeed. Now, this is based on their internal numbers, and that's what they're telling me. But if that proves to be true in the actual vote totals, it would be a good night for the president indeed, Anderson. Yeah,
let's check in with Candy. Candy, what are you hearing about Virginia? I also then want to talk to you about Ohio and what Peter Hamby just reported. But what are you hearing from the Romney campaign about Virginia?
Well, I can tell you this. When I asked them about 3 states, Florida, Virginia, and Ohio, they were bullish about Florida. They said great. They said okay when I asked about how they thought things were going in Ohio and Virginia. They are going on these same numbers. They do get, obviously, reports from certain key counties, but they see this coming in. They say we knew it was going to be tight, but they still feel good about Virginia, and it would be awfully difficult for Mitt Romney to put together 270 if you drop Virginia sort of right away. So you can imagine when that first result came up with Kentucky, there was applause from this room. So they are still gearing up here, in fact, for a victory celebration. Mitt Romney and his family watching this from their hotel room not far from here, Anderson.
And for our viewers who have just joined, Candy, just remind us what Peter Hamby was just reporting at the end of the last hour.
Peter reported that he had gotten a hold of the polling from the Romney campaign's internal pollster, Neil Newhouse, which showed Mitt Romney down in Ohio by 5 points on Sunday. Now, I'm getting some blowback about that, and I need some time to kind of check this out. But Peter, got this from a very good source of his, he says, and it showed them down 5 points in Ohio. Now, that would explain the last minute going back to Ohio on Election Day, and it also sort of undercuts the public confidence that they've seemed to have over the past couple of days. Anderson.
All right. We'll continue to check on that. Candy working her sources. Let's check in with John Kane, who's getting new information from those exit polls in Virginia that we couldn't reveal to you until now. What is it, John?
Anderson, we're going to break it down now, and it shows a very close, competitive, actually a fascinating race in the state of Virginia. We've talked about this in the days leading up to the election. The most important part for Governor Romney is do well in the D.C. suburbs and the Northern Virginia exurbs. You see the D.C. suburbs, it's shaded blue. Think about this all night long. If we show you a region, a demographic, a breakdown, and you see the shading, blue means Obama carried it, red means Romney carried it. In the D.C. suburbs, President Obama is getting 61% of the vote to 38% for Governor Romney. Now, that's a big win for the president in the closest in D.C. suburbs, but Governor Romney is actually doing better than John McCain, a little better than John McCain in those closest in suburbs. So, Kane, in those closest in suburbs, those just over the river, just across the river from Washington, D.C. The next big challenge is the Northern Virginia exurbs. When you move a little bit further out from Washington, D.C., Governor Romney winning the vote there by a narrow margin. But again, that's an area where John McCain struggled 4 years ago. So Governor Romney is in play. He's more competitive, if you will, in the close-in areas than John McCain was 4 years ago. Richmond area, big African-American vote down near the central part of the state where the capital is. 23% of the electorate statewide, the president winning in the Richmond area. You have an African-American center in Richmond, then you get out into the suburban areas, Governor Romney holding his own as you get away from the capital city. All this adds up to a competitive race in the state of Virginia. And let's move it the other way. We'll look a little bit more at what's happening here. This is the defining issue in the election, and it is the defining issue in the state of Virginia. Who would better handle the economy? 52% of Virginia voters said Governor Romney would. You see that section shaded red. That's because he carried those voters. Voters who said Governor Romney will do a better job handling the economy, 95% of them. An overwhelming win for Governor Romney among those voters. But, not surprising, among the nearly half of the voters who said the president would do a better job with the economy, 99% for him. So how you view the economy and who would better handle it is a huge driving force in the vote in Virginia today. Let's come over here. Another big question. I don't even need to break down the chart for you. 49% of voters said yes, repeal the health care law. They voted for Governor Romney. 46% said no. They stuck with the president. Pretty evenly divided there. The most important issue facing the country, 62%, as I noted up top, say the economy. That's by far. Look at the difference in the size. The big chunk of the electorate voting for that, and 57% of those to 42% for the president, Anderson, going for Governor Romney. A very close, very competitive race in battleground Virginia.
And checking again in with our analyst, David Gergen, Gloria Borger. It is amazing how close this is in these states.
And on the economic issues, it mirrors what John is talking about in the state of Virginia. I mean, the best case Mitt Romney had to make to the American public is that he would be better on handling the economy, period. That's it. That was the case everyone had to buy into. When you look at the exit polls that I'm looking at, the president's job approval rating is over 50%. So far in early exits, and on the deficit, Romney does better but just by 4 points, and on who's better able to handle the economy, Mitt Romney does better, but just by a few points. He really needs to get those numbers up on handling the economy because that's what people are voting on.
And again, we need a huge grain of salt on the early exit polls.
Exactly.
Because if we believe them, John Kerry would be president.
We absolutely have to have a grain of salt, but the news out of Virginia is not good for Mitt Romney. When you're 49-49 in Virginia, a state he must carry, a state I think many people assumed he would carry. He would carry North Carolina, carry Florida. Alex is shaking his head, but I really do believe that those states are essential because if you look at the data in the Midwest, President's doing very well in the Midwest, and Romney has got to get those three states. And
Alex, you're shaking your head just because of the early hours?
David is right if the exit polls turn out to reflect what actually happens when people vote. It's like Alan Simpson used to say, the problem with democracy is we have to let these damn people vote. And they're going to vote. But, I do think that we should wait and see if the same thing happens to Mitt Romney that happened to George Bush running against John Kerry. That is that there's a little bump that is not reflected here.
I agree.
If so, then Virginia might be okay. If so, then some of these states that look a little tight.
What about the economic numbers, though, too?
But no, Gloria's point on the economy, though, I think is dead on. Here's Mitt Romney, business guy, running against a guy who has, unemployment is higher today than the day he was sworn into office. The economy's a mess, and guess what? Mitt Romney hasn't quite been able to
you're saying
separate himself
something out of Virginia.
Yeah, one thing that hasn't been reported on well yet, in Virginia, Ben Jealous, the head of the NAACP, put a huge effort to get African Americans registered to vote, and I think that you're going to see a bigger bump out of the black community than you would otherwise have.
Well, let's check in with Wolf. He's got some new information. Wolf?
We want to show our viewers the actual numbers coming in from two states, Florida and Indiana, right now. Let's start with Florida. The polls have closed in most of the state, not necessarily in all of the panhandle, but in most of the state, they're releasing these numbers. Let's show you what we have with 4% of the vote now in the state of Florida. The president has 55%, Governor Romney 45%. There's about a 32,795 advantage for the president in Florida right now. 29 electoral votes at stake. The president ahead right now, but it's very early. Only 4% of the vote is in. In Indiana, 6% of the vote is in. Mitt Romney has an impressive lead so far, 58% to 40%, but it's still very early. Those 11 electoral votes in Indiana still up in the air. We have not made a projection in Indiana. Let's bring in some of our reporters in the battleground states. Brian Todd is in Nashua, New Hampshire. Kyung La is in Littleton, Colorado. Brian, first to you. What's going on over there?
Well, big story here in New Hampshire. Voter registration, same-day voters. Look at the line here in Nashua, Precinct 3. This line goes all the way out the door. They want to try to prevent people from waiting out in the cold. Goes all the way down the hall here. Same-day registration voters. This is what they're waiting in line for. It's gotten so big here as far as the wait here and in Salem and in Manchester that they've had to, at least in Nashua, I'm told by the city clerk, they have had to deputize volunteers from the both campaigns to help process people through. And again, these aren't people who are already registered. These are people here who are registering for the first time to vote in this precinct or registering to vote for the first time ever in their lives. Big excitement here in Nashua, New Hampshire. This is where the line goes. And but we are told that people will be able to vote if they're in line when the polls close, Wolf. So that's the good news. These people are sticking it out. They want to, Wolf. So that's the good news. These people are sticking it out. They want to vote for the first time, some of them. Yeah,
it's a key battleground state in New Hampshire. Let's go to Kyung La in Colorado. Kyung, what are you seeing there?
Votes are counted in a battleground county. This is Arapahoe County within this battleground, and we're expecting the pace to really pick up here. What you're seeing over here, this is where those ballots, those are the absentee ballots that were just pulled off of a van that came in. And then over this way, those ballots then head over here, that they're scanned by that machine, and then from there they have to signature, verify everything, and then they get pulled out of the envelope by these people. Something that I found interesting, one Republican, one Democrat at every single table to make sure that this is absolutely fair. Turnout has been very robust, 1.9 million so far, according to the Colorado Secretary of State. 2 million is how many they had turn out in 2008. We're just talking about the early voting. So right now, turnout very high, very robust. The Republicans are slightly edging the Democrats by 35,000 votes here in the state of Colorado, Wolf. Republicans say that gives them the advantage here.
Kyung La in Colorado, Brian Todd in New Hampshire. Guys, thanks very much. Let's go over to John King right now. Florida, I want to take a closer look at what's going on because some of the results are coming in from various parts of the state, not the panhandle.
It's early in the night, Wolf. This is our 2012 map. Just to remind folks, that's what it looked like 4 years ago when it was all filled in. That was the big Obama victory. Here's where we are now. The results are early. They're just coming in. So when we click into these states, you see Virginia blue, Florida blue, Kentucky and Indiana red. It's early. They're red now because that candidate, blue for Obama, red for Romney, is leading. Let's go in, battleground Florida, 29 electoral votes. Now you see what I'm talking about. Just 4% of the vote in, 55 to 45. But where is the vote? One of the reasons the president's winning is because some of the early vote is coming in from Orlando, 61-38. Let's just go back and do a little historical check. 59-41 last time when the president won Florida. He won Florida statewide, if you want to come back out and look statewide. The president won Florida statewide last time, 51-48, and he won right here in Orange County, 59-41. Again, these are preliminary results. At the moment, he's running a little bit of ahead of his totals from there. That's one of the things we watch as the night goes on. Is he overperforming or underperforming where he was before? The top up here, Nassau County, it's a tiny rural county. This is one of the counties where Governor Romney has to rack up the numbers. It's 100% in. As you see, it's not a lot of votes. But Governor Romney needs to do this in almost every state he's competitive in small rural communities. He needs to rack up big numbers to offset the president's margin in urban areas. So looking at this with just 4% of the vote in doesn't tell you much. It tells you the president's doing well where he's supposed to do well, and Governor Romney's doing well where he's supposed to do well. More is starting to come in here. This is a bit more interesting, but as you see, 1% of the vote. And again, what does it tell you? We do know this. We know this state will be decided right around in here, the Northern Virginia suburbs and the exurbs. Governor Romney must run better and stronger than John McCain. This is where the population growth is in Virginia. This is where you have the suburban voters, John McCain. This is where the population growth is in Virginia. This is where you have the suburban voters, college-educated women. Governor Romney has to do better than John McCain. If you go back again 4 years ago, you'll see what I'm talking about. All blue in here. Governor Romney doesn't have to win all these counties, but he's got to be more competitive. If he could make the map look more like that, that's how George W. Bush won Virginia a few years back. Those are the battleground states that you're starting to see the results already, Wolf, come into play. And again, we need to watch them. Just one footnote. I told you a bit earlier, there's a little county over here in western Indiana, Vigo County. It has been right, Vigo County. It's been right all but twice. The last time it was wrong was 1952. Since 1888, the winner of this county has won the presidency, except for in 2 presidential elections. What kind of night are we in for?
Just 78% of the vote in. Look at the difference, 14,282 to 14,036. I want you to watch that county for us and see what happens there. Maybe it's a bellwether. Maybe it's an indicator. Maybe not.
Like the country, it seems to be not so sure at the moment. Let's keep counting.
Let's see. We'll continue to watch. Anderson, who would have thought?
Yeah, let's check in with our contributors. James Carville, you've been looking at the numbers closely.
I have, and I want to share our voters our viewers on one thing. We don't know. We're not in possession of some secret thing here that we manipulate and we kind of know the result, but we're going to tease you and make you stay and watch it.
People are actually going to have to vote.
They're going to have to vote and have to count. I want to be very clear to our viewers about that. But what we do know is this, and this is indisputable, is we know these critical states are close, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, okay? If Governor Romney loses any one of them, he's out. He's got to keep, as Alex just said, he's like a guy at the blackjack table. He's got to, if he wins one, he's got to double down on the next one and the next one.
You're saying without Ohio, he can't win?
If he leaves Virginia, it's going to be very, very hard for him.
And on the other hand,
Florida,
if Obama loses any of those states, then his 08 coalition is coming apart, except for Florida.
Right.
He loses North Carolina.
If he loses North Carolina, if President Obama loses North Carolina by a point, his coalition is not coming apart. I mean,
he doesn't have his 08 coalition.
Again, he barely won North Carolina.
He won by
14,000 votes.
Doesn't mean okay, James, you can yell a little later. My point is he could still win tactically in Ohio. But his big strategic, there's this brand new world with all these different voters, and the old Republican Party is dead. It didn't work for him.
Alex, let me make a point. Let me finish. If he carried it by 14,000, he loses that by 14,000. His coalition is not coming apart. Right. I mean, let's don't.
If he doesn't win Virginia, if he doesn't win North Carolina.
What we know, though, is that the president has run a play.
It was in 08, James. That's just the way it is.
I know he won by 7.3 in 08. No one thinks he's going to win by 7.3.
So if Romney falls a point short, then his world is totally different. But if Obama falls a point short, nothing's changed.
He has a 7%. He has a 7% margin. Can I explain? He won by 7.3. He is not going to replicate that. He carried Virginia by 6.8. That he carried Virginia by 6.3. He's not going to carry it by 6.3. But if he carries it by 6 votes, he's probably going to be the next president.
Did the president run a play to the base strategy?
Look, he ran a strategy. According to them, they have this vaunted turnout operation. We're going to know what happens here in a couple of 3 hours. We just got to wait. But I'm just making a point. I don't know. I'm looking at these numbers. I'm telling our viewers, we don't know for sure. We're just going to have to wait.
Well, you're right about Romney has to win each succeeding state. Romney is, this is like the NCAA playoffs. Romney's got to win every game to make it to the finals.
Right. That's true. We agree on that. Yeah.
That we do.
Well, the point that you're making is that there was a hope that we would be able to do well in the South, as well as the West, as well as the East. And that is in danger. You could be, I agree with you, you could be in a situation where we are unable to pull that off. But I don't agree that it means the entire vision collapses, because you are going to see, I think, extraordinary success in places like Colorado.
I want to continue this discussion, but let's just quickly check. Wolf, you got some new numbers, I think, in Florida?
All right, take a look at this, guys. Florida, look at this, 50-50. 5% of the vote is now in the state of Florida. The president of the United States has 50%. Mitt Romney has 50%. Romney is ahead by 712 votes right now. It's still early. Only 5% of the vote is in, but this is as close as you get in Florida. Anderson, a lot of us remember what happened in 2000.
Yeah, it certainly does. But again, 5% of the vote, still very early hours here.
It does, but it's really, really close. We have to come back to this. I actually support what James is saying. So far, President Obama looks very strong in the Midwest. He looks like he's holding. The only way Romney gets there, he's got to take Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, and then he is competitive. He can break through somewhere else. But if he starts losing one of those three states, and Obama also holds the Midwest, it's a really hard job.
I mean, that's his, that's his firewall. That's completely firewall.
Yeah,
and if he gets it, it's over.
We're counting down to the state that could decide the presidency. Also, Ohio. Once the polls close, our correspondents on the ground are going to get a briefing from the Secretary of State on early voting. That should be very interesting. And also absentee ballots. We'll be watching for any reaction to the candidates' headquarters when those first Ohio results come in. Stay tuned for that.
Election Night in America is brought to you by AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible. And by U.S. Bank, all of us serving you. Member FDIC. Go to CNN.com/election to get up-to-the-minute news on the races and for results from around the country.
Whether it's Kevin's smartphone, Mom's smartphone, Dad's tablet, or Lauren's smartphone. AT&T has a plan built to help make families' lives easier. Introducing AT&T Mobile Share. One plan lets you share data on up to 10 devices with unlimited talk and text. Add a tablet for only $10 per month. AT&T.
You see us at the start of the day. On the company phone list that's a few names longer. You see U.S. Bank on busier highways, on once empty fields. Every day, you see all the ways all of us at U.S. Bank are helping grow our economy, lending more so companies and communities can expand, grow stronger, and get back to work. Every day, you see all of us serving you around the country, around the corner. U.S. Bank.
The clock is ticking, America. It's time we focused on reality instead of rhetoric. It's time to recognize that the nearly $100 billion spent on clean coal technologies have resulted in real environmental progress. And it's time we finally get serious about energy prices and energy independence. The clock is ticking. There's never been a more important time for America's most abundant, domestically produced energy resource, coal. Visit americaspower.org to get the facts.
CNN tomorrow night at 8 and 10. Anderson Cooper breaks down the results. What will it mean for America's future? Anderson Cooper 360. Live tomorrow night, 8 and 10 Eastern on CNN.
This election year, stay with KTVU Channel 2 News for complete Bay Area election coverage. Depend on KTVU Channel 2 for up-to-the-minute election results.
A lot of debate over this one.
And the expertise to learn how those results will affect you.
Live team coverage this evening. We'll check in with Channel 2 reporters across the Bay Area and the state.
Extended Election Day coverage starts today at 4 p.m. and continues all night. KTVU Channel 2 News. Complete Bay Area election coverage. Xfinity On Demand presents, in this race, two losers don't make a winner.
It's a real spirited campaign, but we kept it civil.
Your face is like a butt. But now everyone can be a winner.
No, that's supposed to be pleasurable. Hey!
Rent the campaign now. Don't wait almost 8 weeks until Netflix delivers it.
Marty Huggins works out at Curves.
Where did you get that photo?
Grab the remote.
Is that a crossbow? Ah! Black Hawk Down!
And rent the campaign now. Find it here with Xfinity On Demand.
After, Piers looks at what it means for you. CNN tomorrow night live, 9 Eastern.
We can make a projection right now that Mitt Romney will win the state of Indiana, and it's 11 electoral votes. Mitt Romney winning a state the president won 4 years ago. Right now, with 8% of the vote in, Romney has 57% to President Obama's 41%. A win for Mitt Romney in Indiana. Let's show you where the tally stands right now on the road to 270. Romney up to 19, the president of the United States with 3 electoral votes. We projected a win for him earlier in Vermont. We're live, by the way, at election watch parties in the home cities of the presidential candidates in Mitt Romney's Boston and President Obama's Chicago. Both candidates' supporters are eagerly awaiting the first results from the all-important battleground state of Ohio. We want to welcome back our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer in the CNN Election Center. Just moments from now, the polls close in 3 more states. North Carolina, as well as Ohio and neighboring West Virginia. Together, those states account for 38 of the 270 electoral votes needed to win the White House. Let's check the anxiety level over at the candidates' headquarters. Candy Crowley is with the Romney campaign in Boston. Jessica Yellen is with the president in Chicago. Candy, let's go to you first.
It's pretty quiet right here now, Wolf. As you know, the candidate is back in Boston after last-minute swing today through both Pennsylvania and Ohio. We are seeing people beginning to trickle in, still in upbeat group, still, you know, big cheer when they won Kentucky, although they know that's one that they were supposed to get. So there's still an air of optimism here. They are looking at the same kind of things we are, although they're getting added reports from their folks at the poll who've been checking, you know, which Romney supporters have shown up and which haven't. But they still are feeling pretty good about it here, Wolf.
All right, let's go to Jessica. How are they feeling in Chicago?
Hi, Wolf. They are liking what they're seeing. It is also quiet still here. The president is at home, at his own home in Chicago, where he's having dinner with some family and friends. The girls, Sasha and Malia, flew in from the White House. They landed this afternoon, and he's going to sit down and eat with them there before going to watch the returns with staff at the hotel in town. They like especially what they're seeing in Cuyahoga County, Ohio. That's where Cleveland is. It's a Democratic stronghold, and it was the turnout in Cuyahoga that helped him carry the state in 2008. They're looking for it again tonight, Wolf.
Thanks very much. We'll be checking back with both of you, but let's check in with Anderson right now.
Yeah, Wolf, thanks very much. We have obviously checked in with our reporters, counting down the first results from Ohio, which could be the decider in this election. As you know, no Republican has been elected president without winning the state of Ohio. We've got correspondents all across the state. First, let's check in with Aaron Burnett in Columbus. Aaron?
All right, well, Anderson, I'm here in what really could be the kingmaker state. I'm standing outside the State House here in Columbus, Ohio. The question is, will we know the winner tonight? In just a few moments, the polls are going to close, and we're going to get our first briefing from the Secretary of State here in Ohio, who some say could be the most important man tonight, election night. John Husted, will he be the man that ends up deciding this election? We have reporters across the state. I want to start first with Don Lemon. He's in Cincinnati. Don?
I'm in Cincinnati, Hamilton County, heavily Republican, but I'm being told by an election official it's going to come down to this. These provisional ballots, they said they have issued more than usual, and if that happens, of course, they can't be counted until 10 days after the election. 20,000 or more provisional ballots it could come down to, and if it's any indication, we're going to be here for a while, and the rest of the state could go the same way, Aaron.
All right, well, Don, and of course, you just heard Jessica Yellen talking about the importance of Cuyahoga County to both candidates, but particularly to the president. Martin Savage is in Cleveland there. Martin.
Hey, Aaron, yeah, Cleveland likes to call itself the best location in the nation. It was certainly that today for both campaigns. Paul Ryan, that is, and Mitt Romney, they were both here. They went on the east side, and then literally dropping out of the sky, the Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden, with a surprise visit, lands in Cleveland, goes to a restaurant, and then is gone. Ohio, Ohio, Ohio. Aaron?
That's what it's all about. Anderson, back to you in Washington.
Yeah, you just heard Jessica Yellen talking about Cuyahoga County. As the votes start coming in, it's really important to pay close attention to exactly what part of the states they're coming in from. That tells us a lot. John King is at the magic wall with that, John.
Anderson, it is in many ways the ultimate bellwether. No Republican has ever won the White House without Ohio. Ohio has been right in every presidential election since 1964, meaning the winner of Ohio has gone on to win the White House. Who's voting today in Ohio? Prior to the election, when you saw some of the polls, you'd see more Democratic sample in the polls. Some Republicans would complain. But look, 39% of the electorate in Ohio today says they're Democrats. 30% say they're Republicans. 31% say they're independents. These independents, assuming Democrats vote Obama, Republicans vote Romney, the independents will be decisive in Ohio today. Now, this is a big question in Ohio. Do you approve or disapprove of the federal government's aid to automakers? Second to Michigan, Ohio is, in terms of the U.S. auto industry impact on the economy. This should be encouraging news for the Democratic incumbent. 6 in 10 voters in Ohio today say they approve of the federal government's aid to automakers. This has been a huge issue in this campaign, especially in battleground Ohio. 36% disapprove of that aid. Let's watch this as it plays out. The economic questions dominating Ohio. And here's another key one. Ohio is one of the battleground states. In some, unemployment situation is worse since the president took office. Ohio, the unemployment rate has improved. Now, Republicans say it's their governor, John Kasich, who should get the credit, but 37% of the voters in Ohio today say things are getting better. That tends to help an incumbent. 33% say they're getting worse. 29% say things are about the same. So that's an interesting split on the economy, but the fact that more people are getting optimistic about the economy generally helps an incumbent. We'll watch that one play out. And there's a more personal take on the same question. Is your family's financial situation getting better, worse, or the same? A plurality. 43% say it's the same. 31% say worse. 26% say better. So a test of economic optimism go red. So he's tracking his performance there at the moment right now. You expect the Republicans to do very well up here. But you know the old saying about Florida, the further south you go, the further north you get. These are a lot of transplants, retirees from New York and elsewhere in the Northeast. These are the 3 most Democratic counties in Florida, 2 of them filling in blue so far. One of the questions as we get down here will be the margin, though. A lot of Jewish voters down here. Governor Romney tried to stress the president's relationship with Jewish voters by talking about his relationship with Israel, the Iran nuclear crisis. Let's just look. Very early results in Palm Beach County. The president getting 66%. Got 61% 4 years ago. So the president's going to be happy with those very early results. We'll see if that stands up in battleground Florida as the map slowly begins to fill in. Let's come on up the coast a little bit as we watch Florida fill in. If that one stays blue all night long, that's the end of Mitt Romney's path to 270. He needs the 29 from Florida to get there. You see, Virginia at the moment, it is lit up red at the moment, but 2% of the vote. Just 2% of the vote. Mitt Romney, 59. President Obama. This is one of the reasons why we don't have much here. The most important part of the state is right here. Governor Romney.
Hold on one second, John.
Sure.
I want to go to Kate Baldwin. She's in Virginia right now. That's one of the key battleground states. You're getting some fresh, updated numbers, Kate?
We're getting our first results coming in from our first precinct here in Prince William County, Virginia. I'm going to go over to the vice chairman of the County Board of Elections, Rick Hendricks. He took the first call. Rick, tell us the results that you got and from where you got it in.
It was from Piney Branch Precinct in Bristow. It went 799 for Mitt Romney, 966 for Barack Obama. If you know Northern Virginia, Jiffy Lube Live concert venue, that's where that precinct is.
And you told me earlier that this is a new precinct, but tell me about historically what this area how this went in 2008.
It used to be part of Victory Precinct, and in 2008, Obama did carry Victory Precinct.
All right, so there's our first reporting out of Prince William County, Virginia. We're watching the calls as they come in. We'll have more coming in very shortly, we hope. Back to you.
All right, Kate, thank you. John, what do you think? Virginia is obviously the northern part, the suburbs of Washington. The president has to do well there.
The president has to do well. Governor Romney has to narrow the gap, though. I want to show this is the current map. We don't have the results filled in yet. This is the county Kate's talking about, Prince William County. I was just out there a couple of weeks ago.
We're the first ones, by the way, to get these results. Right. They haven't officially come in yet.
As the elections official noted, President Obama carried this county 4 years ago, Prince William County. Here's Washington, D.C. Here's your close-in suburbs just across the river. As you move out here, the suburbs here, now you're getting into the exurbs out here. This is traditionally Republican territory, meaning when George Bush won the state in 2004, this was red. Governor Romney, to be competitive in the state, really needs to turn it red tonight. Could this be blue at the end of the night like it was in 2008 and Romney still win Virginia? Yes, it could be, but the margins would have to be much, much smaller. If you look at the 2008 margin, this is just Prince William County, 58 to 42. There's no way Governor Romney can be competitive elsewhere in the state if he's losing by that much in Prince William County. So we'll have to watch as this comes in. He hopes this is red. If nothing else, he has to do a better job, has to run closer in the suburbs. If you look at 2008, see all this out here? See all this red? Well, guess what? Because of the population up here, the president won Virginia by 234,000 votes. The president won Northern Virginia by 234,000 votes. They tied. In the rest of the state, you see all this red, you think Governor, this is John McCain. You think John McCain has to be running up huge numbers down here, but these are tiny counties, 0.5% of the state population, 0.3% of the state population. So the president tends to win in the population centers, Norfolk, Richmond, and the suburbs here, and the Republicans run up huge numbers in the rural areas, but they have to get more. Governor Romney needs turnout to be up out here, without a doubt, but he also needs to cut into the margins in the suburban areas as you go forward, as you come into 2012. As we watch it fill in, this is filling in as you would expect. The question is what happens up here, and that's what we'll be watching. And again, like Florida, this one, crucial, capital C, to the Romney path to 270.
Doesn't look like we have any results yet from Fairfax.
Not enough.
Some of the counties outside of Washington, D.C., but we'll be watching those very closely. Anderson, back to you.
We've got brand new information on the absentee balloting in Florida and some of the key precincts that have already closed. Our battleground reporters are standing by for that. We're awaiting poll closings also in a large number of states at the top of the hour, including the swing state of New Hampshire. The last open polls in Florida will close as well. And, of course, we'll get results from Massachusetts, where Boston's historic Faneuil Hall Marketplace, where they're showing election results live on CNN.
Election Night in America is brought to you by Cadillac, the standard of the world, and by VoteForEnergy.org, a program of the American Petroleum Institute. Log on to learn more. Go to CNN.com/election to get up-to-the-minute news on the races and for results from around the country.
There are a lot of warning lights and sounds vying for your attention. So we invented a warning you can feel. Introducing the all-new Cadillac XTS, available with the patented safety alert seat. When there's danger you might not see, you're warned by a pulse in the seat. It's technology you won't find in a Mercedes E-Class. The Cadillac XTS has arrived, bringing the future forward.
For me, this election's about jobs. Millions of people are out of work. Developing more energy here is vital to turning this economy around. We've got to do it. I'm Kelsey, and I'm an energy voter.
We're going to try and stump some political junkies with questions from Bing Elections. Do you know where your polling place is?
Maybe somewhere around my house.
Mine's just right over that way. But you can find out exactly where it is using Bing Elections. But it's a good day for politics. Which way do you lean politically?
Conservative, Republican.
Well, using the Bing News selector, you can find news from whichever way you lean.
Social, on this side, financial.
Which party news selector, you can find news from whichever way you lean.
Social, on this side, financial.
Which party is currently predicted to win a majority in the Senate?
The Republicans?
Would you make a bet on that?
No.
Are you a chicken?
There's a big deficit, and we have priorities to pay for. Schools, roads, healthcare. Developing domestic energy will not only generate revenue, it'll make us more secure. It's a win-win. I'm Aaron, and I'm an energy voter.
I grew up in a socialist country, and I have seen what that does to people. There is no hope, no freedom, no pride in achievement. The nation became poorer and poorer, and that's what I see happening here. As a young boy, I was fantasizing about one day going to America, making a success of myself, the American dream. America's wealth comes from the efforts of people striving for success. Take away their incentive with bad-mouthing success, and you take away the wealth that helps us take care of the needy. Yes, in socialism, the rich will be poorer, but the poor will also be poorer. People will lose interest in really working hard and creating jobs. I think this is a very slippery slope. It seems like people don't learn from the past. That's why I'm voting Republican and putting this ad on television. I'm Thomas Peterffy, and I'm responsible for the content of this advertising.
You made such a bold entrance into our little drama. Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
We have another projection we can make right now. Take a look at this. South Carolina, we project will be won by Mitt Romney. There it is, the check right there. 1% of the vote is in. Shows President Obama way ahead, but based on information that we're getting, exit polls and other real numbers coming in. South Carolina, we project, will go for Mitt Romney as fully expected. Let's see where the tally stands right now with South Carolina. Mitt Romney has 33 electoral votes, we project, compared to 3 so far for the President of the United States, 270 needed to win the presidency. Let's take a look at Florida right now. We have real votes coming in from Florida. I want to update you on what we know. 28% of the vote is in, the president maintaining a slight advantage, 51% to 48%, 63,000 vote advantage for the president. He's got 1,200,000 to 1,100,000 plus for Mitt Romney. We have reporters standing by in that battleground state of Florida, Drew Griffin and John Zarrella. Let me go to John Zarrella.
News Selector, you can find news from whichever way you lean.
Social, on this side, financial.
Which party is currently predicted to win a majority in the Senate?
The Republicans?
Would you make a bet on that?
No.
Are you a chicken?
There's a big deficit, and we have priorities to pay for. Schools, roads, healthcare. Developing domestic energy will not only generate revenue, it'll make us more secure. It's a win-win. I'm Aaron, and I'm an energy voter.
I grew up in a socialist country, and I have seen what that does to people. There is no hope, no freedom, no pride in achievement. The nation became poorer and poorer, and that's what I see happening here. As a young boy, I was fantasizing about one day going to America, making a success of myself, the American dream. America's wealth comes from the efforts of people striving for success. Take away their incentive with bad-mouthing success, and you take away the wealth that helps us take care of the needy. Yes, in socialism, the rich will be poorer, but the poor will also be poorer. People will lose interest in really working hard and creating jobs. I think this is a very slippery slope. It seems like people don't learn from the past. That's why I'm voting Republican and putting this ad on television. I'm Thomas Peterffy, and I'm responsible for the content of this advertising.
You made such a bold entrance into our little drama. Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
We have another projection we can make right now. Take a look at this. South Carolina, we project will be won by Mitt Romney. There it is, the check right there. 1% of the vote is in. Shows President Obama way ahead, but based on information that we're getting, exit polls and other real numbers coming in, South Carolina, we project will go for Mitt Romney as fully expected. Let's see where the tally stands right now with South Carolina. Mitt Romney has 33 electoral votes, we project, compared to 3 so far for the President of the United States, 270 needed to win the presidency. Let's take a look at Florida right now. We have real votes coming in from Florida. I want to update you on what we know. 28% of the vote is in, the president maintaining a slight advantage, 51% to 48%, 63,000 vote advantage for the president. He's got 1,200,000 to 1,100,000 plus for Mitt Romney. We have reporters standing by in that battleground state of Florida, Drew Griffin and John Zarrella. Let me go to John Zarrella. We have reporters standing by in that battleground state of Florida, Drew Griffin and John Zarrella. Let me go to John Zarrella first. John, tell us what you're seeing in Riviera Beach. I'm not sure that John Zarrella is hearing me. We'll go back to you. Drew Griffin, what are you seeing in Jacksonville?
John, this is Duval County, traditionally a Republican county, Wolf. And let me just give you some background. In 2000, Bush beat Gore by 17%. 2004, Bush beats Kerry by 16%. In 2008, John McCain won here, but won by less than 1%. Now tonight we have 44% of the votes in. That's early voting and absentee ballots that have been counted. And it is razor-thin close. It is 50.44 Mitt Romney to 48.83 for Barack Obama. Now, that is a razor-thin margin. somewhat similar to what they had in the final results in the last election. But again, this is 44% of the hard vote in Duval County. Wolf?
Drew, thanks very much. I hope we could get connected with John Zarrella right now. He's also in Florida. What's going on, John? Can you hear me right now? If not, let's go to Gary Tuchman first in Virginia. Gary, Virginia, key battleground state. You got some numbers coming in from there as well.
Well, that's right, Wolf. We're in Henrico County, which is a battleground county in this battleground state. Very important. Each candidate desperately wants to win this county, which is just north of Richmond. And they trust me enough here, the elections officials, to give me the raw numbers for some of the precincts. There are 93 precincts. A handful have now reported. And I want to analyze them a little bit with the two top bosses here. This is Mark Coakley, who's the general registrar here. Anne Marie Middlesworth, the deputy. And what's interesting about these numbers, they're very similar to 2008 numbers when Barack Obama won here. For example, here in this precinct, Mitt Romney, 1,096 votes. Barack Obama, 824 votes. This is the West End precinct. How does that compare to 2008?
I had 1,078 votes for Obama and 746 votes for Obama and 1,058 for McCain.
Okay, so that was almost exactly similar percentage. I actually calculated it before. Then this other precinct called Laburnum. Barack Obama, 941 votes today. Mitt Romney, 340 votes. So Barack Obama won that precinct very big. What was it in 2008 between Obama and McCain?
McCain had 1,059.
This is Laburnum.
Laburnum, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's go to the other one, Laburnum.
Okay. Laburnum was 421 McCain to 1,065 Obama.
Okay, so it's almost the same percentage. This is time of 941 to 310. We have one more here. And remember, these are the real numbers. These are the numbers that will be counted to help determine who the President of the United States is. This is an Oakview. Oakview, Mitt Romney, this is small. Mitt Romney, 68. Barack Obama, 48 tonight. What was it in 2008?
Obama, 50. McCain, 66.
So 66 to 50 Republican 4 years ago, 68 to 48 Republican today. Almost exactly similar. The reason today, almost exactly similar. The reason that possibly, I emphasize possibly, may bode well so far for Barack Obama is because Barack Obama won this county 4 years ago. It was the first time since 1964 that a Democrat won in this county, just like the state of Virginia as a whole. Wolf?
Gary, thanks very much. All right, let's try to make some sense of what's going on. Those are indicators that you're seeing. You see those numbers. You compare them to 2008. What's the bottom line?
Well, the bottom line is we're starting to slowly fill in. The red states, again, we've got to be careful. You're looking at these states. We have this one. We've already called it. South Carolina, the early results show the president leading. So beware of glancing at the wall. Beware of looking at any early results. Sometimes they're misleading. But as you start to fill them in Florida, for example, where Drew just was, he just told us he's right here. He's in Duval County. It's 5% of the state population. So that starts to add up. And we look at the numbers here. Mitt Romney, 51. President Obama, 49. Early part of the vote. But sometimes you just want to take a peek. And as Drew said, very competitive. The question is, one of the things we're going to watch as we start to get more results in, is Governor Romney overperforming John McCain, and is President Obama underperforming his 2008 performance? Up there right now, that's pretty much a dead heat. This, as we've talked about before, a very important area of the state, Hillsborough County, 6% of the state population. President slightly ahead right now. We're going to watch this, Wolf, as we come all the way across the I-4 corridor.
We're getting some votes in Ohio that are coming in right now, a crucial battleground state. Still relatively early, but these are votes that are coming in.
Early votes coming in. I'm going to tap it. Before I do, I'm going to say the early results obviously show red. Get used to the color scheme as we go through the night. So Governor Romney is leading, but Ohio's a pretty big state. Yeah. It's not going to be 8,000 to 5,000 by the time we're done. These votes are coming in right now in pretty small rural areas. If you look at the state, this matters, this matters. This matters, and this matters. We got a lot to wait for in Ohio.
He carried Ohio last time because he carried those areas, including down in Hamilton County around Cincinnati.
52% last time. The fact that was blue last time was part of the difference. If that's blue this time, Governor Romney's in trouble.
Yeah, he certainly is. Anderson is with Dana Bash for a little update on the balance of power in Congress. Anderson.
Yeah, we're closely watching a number of Senate races, obviously, right now. What do we know at this point?
Well, we can make our first projections of the evening. CNN is projecting that West Virginia Democrat Joe Manchin is going on to win another term, actually his first full term. And Bernie Sanders, the independent senator from Vermont, is also winning re-election. He caucuses with the Democrats. So those are the two calls that we're going to make. But really, the drama is in so many of these critical competitive races. And look at this. Indiana, that is really, look at that. Look how close it is, 47 to 47. Incredible. Only 16% reporting. Here's the key on this race. This is going to be an early bellwether as to whether or not Republicans can retake control of Congress. Why? Because it's a Republican seat. It's an open Republican seat. Remember Richard Murdoch? He was the one who made those comments about rape and pregnancy recently. That has hurt him in the polls. Republicans I'm talking to tonight say that he has to overperform Romney by 10% in order to win. So we're really watching that closely. In Virginia, another neck-and-neck race. We've been talking about the presidential being too close to call. Same with Virginia. George.
ExxonMobil, taking on the world's toughest energy challenges. Go to CNN.com/election to get up-to-the-minute news on the races and for results from around the country.
When you take a closer look at the best schools in the world, you see they all have something very interesting in common. They have teachers with a deeper knowledge of their subjects. As a result, their students achieve at a higher level. Let's develop more stars in education. Let's invest in our teachers so they can inspire our students. Let's solve this.
Welcome to the new MI6.
Author PPKS 9mm short. Coded to your palm print so only you can fire it. Less of a random killing machine, more of a personal statement. Q 007.
Skyfall, rated PG-13, in IMAX Friday.
I know the name of 8 princesses. I'm an expert on softball and tea parties. I'll have more awkward conversations than I'm equipped for because I'm raising 2 girls on my own. I worry about the economy more than a few times before they're grown. But it's for them. So I found a way.
Who matters most to you says the most about you. Mass Mutual is owned by our policyholders, so they matter most to us. Mass Mutual. We'll help you get there.
There you go. I'm going to stand up to her.
No, you're not.
I know.
You know, Ronnie, folks who save hundreds of dollars switching to Geico sure are happy. How happy are they, Jimmy? Happier than a witch in a broom factory.
Get happy. Get Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Our soldiers defend our freedom, but face unexpected conflicts when they return home. The Battlefield at Home, an Anderson Cooper Veterans Day special, Saturday 8 Eastern on CNN.
83% of addicts who go through treatment relapse within a year. At Cliffside Malibu, our treatment program is so successful, we guarantee it. Our success rate is among the highest in the country. Learn how we overcome addiction in this free report. Call 888-CLIFFSIDE now.
Our private one-on-one approach is holistic, research-based, and effective.
At Cliffside Malibu, you should only have to do this once. Call 888-CLIFFSIDE for your free report.
As America's election day draws near, there's another race in which the winner was never in doubt. In 3 separate independent polls, one name stood above all the others to win the coveted prize. San Francisco Weekly, the San Francisco Bay Guardian, and the Bay Area Reporter all agreed that in 2012, the best place to buy eyewear in San Francisco is Veo Optics. With 5 locations, over 10,000 frames in stock, and your own personal stylist, come to Veo Optics today and see why San Franciscans voted them number 1.
Burnett Out Front is live from the nation's capital tomorrow at 7 Eastern on CNN.
Anticipation is building at the candidates' campaign headquarters. We're live with the Romney camp in Boston, the Obama camp in Chicago as we get closer to the top of the hour and another round of poll closings and projections. We'd like to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer. We're only moments away from tonight's biggest wave of poll closings in Alabama, Connecticut, Delaware, the District of Columbia, Florida, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts. The polls also will be closing at the top of the hour in Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Tennessee. Get this. Together, these states and D.C., they carry 172 electoral votes. That's a huge chunk of the 270 needed to win. Both presidential campaigns know it's crunch time. Jessica Yellen is with the Obama campaign. Candy Crowley is with the Romney campaign. Let's go to Jessica first. Jessica, what's going on over there?
Hi, Wolf. Well, we are waiting here, and I hear from the Obama campaign that they do feel good about one of the upcoming states that's closing, Pennsylvania. They like the African-American turnout that they have seen in that state. You know, Governor Romney made a late stop through there, but they are predicting to me that President Obama will carry Pennsylvania, and they might even see a higher African-American turnout than we saw 4 years ago, Wolf.
From Chicago, let's go to Boston and Candy Crowley. What's happening in Boston, Candy?
Well, inside this room, very chill, Wolf. They've been playing jazz music, people sort of gradually coming in. They cheer when they see a state go for Mitt Romney. But let's face it, these are sort of white-knuckle times in that hotel room suite for the Romney campaign. When you look at Virginia, when you look at Florida, when you look at North Carolina, when you look at Ohio, just hard to see how Mitt Romney goes unless he picks up most of those states. So white-knuckle time, but down here, very chill as they await some of these results.
A lot of nervous tension in Boston and in Chicago, dare I say. Let's go to Anderson Cooper. Anderson?
Yeah, we are moments away, as Wolf just mentioned, from a huge wave of results but from Florida and New Hampshire. They're the only states in this round that are considered key battleground states. We've got correspondents in both states right now. First to Florida. That's been so decisive in past elections. John Zarella is on the ground for us right now in Riviera Beach. John?
Anderson, what we're seeing now early on in the absentee balloting and the early balloting, the president's running up very big numbers in 3 key counties, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties, heavily Democratic counties. He did very, very well in 2008. He has to do just as well this time around if he has a chance to take Florida. Anderson?
Andrew Griffin is in Jacksonville for us. Drew?
Yeah, Duval County right now, Romney up by just little under 2% in the early and absentees. But, you know, the voting is still going on, even though the polls have closed. If you're in line at 7, you continue to vote and will cast your vote. We should see precincts coming in about 8 o'clock, just a few minutes from now, Anderson.
And Brian Todd is standing by in Nashua, New Hampshire. Brian?
Anderson, here is the line. Here is the clock. The polls close here in about 5 minutes. A fresh wave of voters just came in. Secretary of State here projecting record turnouts in Nashua, Manchester, and elsewhere in the state. Nashua and Manchester downtown areas lean Democratic. Some other rural areas lean Republican. It's going to be a very tight race here. Polls closing in about 4 minutes, Anderson.
We'll check back in with you. We've got correspondents more correspondents in battleground states than anyone else. Our John King is also back at the Magic Wall. John?
Anderson, we know Florida, we know New Hampshire, battleground states. The big question, did Governor Romney's late push put Pennsylvania in play? In Florida today, look at the even divide of the electorate. 35% of the voters in battleground Florida, Democrats. 32% Republicans, 33% independents. More and more Americans saying they're independents. They will decide who wins the key battleground state of Florida. Here's a huge question here, and we're seeing this state after state after state. 62% of Floridians today say the economy, issue number one. We'll see how that breaks in the election here. This is another big issue in the state. Obviously, Florida, one of the older states in the country. Half of the voters today say President Obama would do a better job handling Medicare. Just shy of that, 46% say Governor Romney. So competitive here. It'll be interesting to watch and see how this affects the senior vote, a key constituency, especially for Governor Romney. Republicans need an edge among seniors. Let's move up to New Hampshire. This also, look at this. 43% of those in the live free or die state describe themselves as independent. 29% as Republicans, 29% as Democrats. So an even partisan divide. Independents will decide who gets the 4 electoral votes out of the state of New Hampshire tonight. It's only 4, but it could be decisive. Let's move past this one for now, and we'll look over here. The opinion of Mitt Romney, he owns a vacation home in the state. He was the governor of Massachusetts. New Hampshire voters split on Governor Romney today as we watch that one play out. And obviously, slightly more a favorable opinion of the president. One quick look at the state of Pennsylvania. Who would better handle Medicare? Another older state. 49-47, a slight advantage for the president. Wolf, we're going to watch this one play out. Florida, New Hampshire, we know our battlegrounds. Mark me down as slightly dubious that the blue DNA in presidential politics of Pennsylvania will shift this time.
We're getting ready, John, for